Hello, I'm Sand Recap, and this is a movie, The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Liking and subscribing might appear straightforward to you, but for us, it holds immense value. Therefore, we genuinely appreciate your support. Thank you very much. During Demeter's last voyage, the ship's crew realizes that the cargo in the hold wishes them death. The film's narrative commences on August 6, 1897, when the Russian schooner Demeter arrives along the English coast in the dead of night, carrying a cargo of 50 crates. Following an initial inspection, a young officer informs the authorities that the ship is empty, except for the captain's diary, which becomes pivotal in unraveling the crew's mysterious disappearance. The storyline then takes us 4 weeks back to the port of Varna in Bulgaria, where the caravan is tasked with transporting the infamous crates. The captain instructs the first mate to assemble the necessary crew members, including Dr. Clemens, who desires to return to England. However, the ship's bosun, Voyage, favors stronger and more skilled laborers. Meanwhile, the local peasants responsible for delivering the crates are eager to depart before sunset and are unmoved by the gold offered for loading the crates. Despite their reluctance, the sailors reluctantly begin the loading process, but a newcomer's discovery of a dragon-shaped emblem on one of the crates leads to a near miss, as he drops it, narrowly avoiding Toby, the captain's young grandson. Clemens comes to the rescue of the boy, and the recently arrived sailor promptly departs the ship, citing his unwillingness to work alongside a symbol of a dragon. In his stead, Voyage agrees to accept Clemens as a replacement. Once the cargo is loaded, the Demeter sets sail, embarking on its journey just as the sun dips below the horizon. As the departing peasants catch sight of the ship in the distance, they cross themselves superstitiously. Toby familiarizes Clemens with the ship's layout, detailing how the crew communicates through taps on the wooden hull. Inside the cargo hold, animals are kept, and the boy looks after them until they are eventually consumed during the voyage. The doctor also forms bonds with a local dog and a man named Cocoon Joseph. One evening, as the crew revels in their voyage, the captain shares with the first mate his intention to retire after this journey, passing on command of the Demeter. During dinner, the sailors discuss their plans for London when they are suddenly alerted by the barking of Toby's dog. Clemens and Toby investigate the source of the commotion, expecting to find animals, but instead discover a stowaway, a severely weakened girl afflicted with an unknown illness. Despite the crew's reluctance, Clemens provides her with initial medical assistance and organizes a blood transfusion to replace her infected blood with a new, unidentified blood type. It's worth noting that the crew is unsettled by the presence of a woman on board. Clemens must shield the girl from the crew's prying eyes, as various members of the crew express interest in their new companion. While he is on watch at the helm, Clemens asks Toby to take over, and the sailor he replaces peers through a spyglass at the sea. When he turns around, he briefly glimpses the horrifying countenance of a grotesque creature before it vanishes. The sailor traverses the deck to investigate who might be lurking and discovers blood on the floor. Momentarily distracted, Clemens loses sight of his fellow sailor and, after securing the helm, ventures to find him. Together, they enter the hold and discover lifeless animals, each bearing gruesome bite marks. The sailors promptly report the incident to the captain, leading the disconcerted crew to speculate that such occurrences have never transpired during their previous journeys. Prior to the encounter with Clemens, tensions had been escalating among the crew, nearly resulting in a physical confrontation. As they deliberated how to deal with the deceased animals, the doctor emphasized that rabies is solely transmitted through bites. Nevertheless, the crew decided not to take any chances and disposed of the spoiled meat overboard. While preparing the sails for an impending storm, Clemens engaged in a conversation with a fellow sailor who confessed to witnessing something otherworldly the previous night. Subsequently, the doctor continued providing blood transfusions to the girl, who mumbled incoherently in her delirium. They eventually learned that her name was Anna. On one fateful night, Clemens encountered Joseph in the ship's hold. Coke had noticed the sudden disappearance of all the rats aboard the vessel, a highly unusual occurrence, especially if something had frightened them away. Simultaneously, another sailor observed that the grate in the hold had been broken, as if someone had forcibly made their way out. In the darkness, he caught sight of an enigmatic creature that lunged at him, clawing at his throat and drinking his blood. Later, Clemens discovered a hole in the grate, bloodstains, and a discarded knife, promptly reporting these findings to the captain. In the morning, the captain and the crew collectively conclude that the sailor had become intoxicated during his watch and accidentally fallen overboard. Nonetheless, the presence of bloodstains left unexplained raised suspicions in Voyage's mind, leading him to cast doubt on Dr. Clemens. Clemens offers an explanation, noting that the animals had been drained of their blood. When Anna regains consciousness, she urgently exclaims that they must leave the ship, but the first mate dismisses such superstitions, despite the unease among the crew. During another evening blood transfusion, Anna discloses a chilling tale involving an entity named Dracula, who, in a human guise, resided in a castle near her village. He sustained himself by feeding on villagers chosen as sacrifices by the elders. Anna's fate was to be shipped to England within one of the crates as a walking meal for this vampire. She was also compelled to venture onto the deck for the vampire to feast upon. When she managed to escape, she had to hunt for sustenance aboard the ship under the cover of darkness. The crew, gripped by fear, found themselves not only contending with worsening weather but also the ominous presence of a lurking creature in the shadows. Algernon, one of the sailors, initially suggested that Anna should have been cast overboard, but he had a change of heart, influenced by thoughts of his own daughter. A short time later, his fellow sailor went to light lanterns, but upon returning, he discovered that Algernon had disappeared. Algernon's cries for help received a response from a figure holding a knife, but the search concluded with the creature launching a deadly attack on one of the crew members. Clemens notices blood dripping onto Toby's shirt and traces its origin. They immediately remove Toby from the deck and place him in the cabin. The doctor examines the wounds and determines that they do not resemble any known viral infection. Captain Elliot orders a comprehensive search of the ship, with crew members paired up for safety. Armed with lanterns and weapons, they meticulously comb through the vessel but find no traces of the culprit. Captain Elliot assigns his grandson the task of cleaning the spyglass while confined to the cabin. Meanwhile, as the sun sets, it instills fear among the crew, who remain restrained. Algernon's behavior becomes increasingly erratic. He seems to be reacting to the sound of the sea and utters incomprehensible words. He claims to be burning as the initial rays of sunlight make contact with him. Eventually, Algernon bursts into flames, his body consumed by an intense fire. This gruesome spectacle instills doubt and fear among the crew. Joseph Polygot believes they are facing a curse brought about by their sins, while Clemens suggests that the ailment that afflicted Algernon might also pose a threat to Toby. The crew decides to attempt a blood transfusion for Toby, seeking the assistance of Captain Elliot, despite the doctor's uncertainty about its efficacy due to the significant size difference. Clemens intends to inspect the crates in the hold in search of the elusive creature, and he is accompanied by a suspicious peasant woman displaying combat skills. While searching in pairs, they make an intriguing discovery about the cargo. Most of it turns out to be simple soil, except for one crate that has cleverly concealed locks for easy access. However, upon opening this crate, they find it contains nothing but soil, earthworms, and an unusual wooden stake adorned with a wolf's head. Simultaneously, Joseph Polygot lowers one of the lifeboats into the water in an attempt to flee from the accursed ship. As he rows away, he soon encounters a horrifying flying creature that emits a chilling cry. On the Demeter, the crew hears the empty boat bumping against the side of the ship. In the midst of this, Toby, the captain's grandson, succumbs to the infection and approaches death. They make preparations to carry out the maritime burial tradition. Wrapped in a canvas shroud, Toby is made ready to be cast into the sea. During this somber ritual, Captain Elliot believes he sees a movement from his grandson. Sunlight affects him in the same way as Algernon, causing injury, and the crew manages to pull the now wounded captain away. As Captain Elliot recovers in the cabin, Wojciech takes over watch duties, and Clemens has many inquiries for him. Nonetheless, they share a common adversary they must unite to overcome. Recognizing Dracula's objective to reach London, the crew devises a scheme to scuttle the ship before it reaches England. Wojciech strongly opposes this idea initially but is eventually persuaded by a narrative about the ship's greater mission. Clemens prepares to create the critical breach in the hull personally. During the daylight hours, the crew lays a trap for Dracula by sealing the hatch from the hold and constructing crow's nests on the mast. Clemens pays a visit to Captain Elliot, who exhibits signs of insanity. As night descends, the crew lies in wait. The ship is just moments away from reaching England when suddenly, an unusually dense fog envelops the sea, obscuring their vision. Wojciech and a sailor stand vigilant in the crow's nest, while Clemens and Anna steer the ship to entice Dracula. The first mate takes aim at the creatures lurking in the fog, but as he descends, he becomes the target of an attack from an unknown assailant. Wojciech falls to the deck below, fracturing his leg in the process. He instructs the others to prepare a lifeboat for escape, while he stealthily moves towards the ship's side with an axe in hand. Meanwhile, Anna lowers the lifeboat, and Wojciech, who is still on board, implores Demeter for mercy, striking the ship's side. However, before he can complete his task, the monstrous Dracula launches an attack on him. Clemens discovers the breach created by Wojciech and tries to rescue him, but Wojciech insists that the ship is his sole refuge. Wojciech ultimately succumbs to the clutches of the malevolent Dracula. Anna lowers the lifeboat into the water and makes her escape, leaving Demeter behind. By the time morning arrives, the crew is left mourning the loss of Toby. As the crew members assemble on the deck to witness the somber sea burial, an unexpected development occurs. It seems that the captain's grandson has shown signs of life. Captain Elliot lifts the canvas covering the boy, and the lifeless child opens his pallid eyes and lunges at his grandfather. The sunlight's rays scorch him, much like what occurred with Algernon. The crew manages to pull Captain Elliot away from the now injured boy. As Captain Elliot convalesces in his cabin, Wojciech takes on the role of watch duty, and Clemens engages him with a barrage of questions. However, they both share a common adversary they must confront. The remaining survivors craft a strategy to entice Dracula, despite her earlier admonitions about the folly of challenging ancient evil. Recognizing that Dracula's objective is to reach London, the crew hatches a plan to scuttle the ship before it reaches England. Wojciech vehemently opposes this plan, but he is eventually swayed by a tale underscoring the ship's paramount importance. The first mate takes aim at the creatures concealed in the thick fog, but as he descends from his post, he falls victim to an attack by an unidentified assailant or entity. Wojciech, in the process, tumbles to the deck below, fracturing his leg in the process. He issues orders for the others to prepare a lifeboat for their escape, all the while clandestinely carrying an axe as he moves towards the ship's side. Concurrently, Anna begins lowering the lifeboat, and Wojciech, who is still aboard, pleads with Demeter, striking the ship's side in his desperation. However, before he can complete his task, the monstrous Dracula launches an assault on him. Clemens comes upon the breach created by Wojciech and endeavors to rescue him, yet Wojciech persists in his belief that the ship is his sole sanctuary. Tragically, Wojciech eventually succumbs to the clutches of the monster Dracula. Meanwhile, Anna lowers the lifeboat into the water, escaping the Demeter, and leaving it behind. As dawn breaks, the grieving crew is left to lament the loss of Toby. In a poignant scene on the deck, where the crew has assembled to witness a solemn sea burial, it appears that Captain Elliot's grandson has come back to life. Captain Elliot raises the canvas covering the boy, and the lifeless child opens his pallid eyes and lunges at his grandfather. The sun's rays inflict a burning agony upon him, mirroring the fate of Algernon. The crew successfully manages to pull Captain Elliot away from the now injured boy. As Captain Elliot recuperates in the cabin, Wojciech takes up the watch duties, and Clemens poses numerous inquiries to him. However, they find themselves united in their battle against a common adversary. Recognizing that Dracula's ultimate destination is London, the crew devises a strategy to sink the ship before it reaches England. Though Wojciech initially vehemently opposes this plan, he is eventually persuaded otherwise with a narrative emphasizing the ship's paramount significance. Clemens readies himself to create the crucial breach in the hull personally. During the daytime, the crew lays out a trap for Dracula by sealing the hold hatch and constructing crow's nests atop the mast. A visit to Captain Elliot reveals signs of madness in the captain, who staunchly refuses to abandon the ship, convinced that the creature will return his grandson if they deliver Demeter safely to the shore, despite the armed resistance of the crew. With the onset of night, the crew takes up their positions for the ambush, well aware that the ship is moments away from arriving in England.